So as we go through standardization in automation, what does that look like for you? And maybe what does it look like now today versus what it looked like 20 years ago? When you started out?
Great question. Well, we could carve that off in a pie probably. One we could talk about hardware, one we could talk about software, and then we could talk about business operations around doing these top projects or just project management in general associated with automation projects. So I'll just dive into the one that sticks out to me the most. I mean, the obvious one to dive into is hardware. You've had great guests on here to talk that front, so I'm not going to spend time on it. For me, what jumps out is software side. And so whether it be version control, whether it be manufacturer specific, whether it be the utilities inside of the software around your automation platform, it is obviously instrumental to have a standard. And you know what? If you're still on version 19, 5,000, that's fine because I have to correct people often that it's so easy to go down the rabbit hole of the latest and greatest that's out there. And oh, we fixed these bugs and all that stuff. But it's very hard to support if you have a plant full of machinery and every one of them's a different version. So we're very careful about leading a customer by the hand down that road. You should have a survey for every project you do, and one of those surveys should be to ask the customer how much that matters. To obviously like Fortune 100 company, your major tire organization or aerospace, they're going to hand you a piece of paper and say you're going to do it by this spec, in automotive as well. It's not our customers every day, although we support those guys. We support a lot of the small manufacturers, right? They even have big brands, but they're small in manufacturing and they really lean on us. So we have a due diligence to serve these guys to say, okay, I'm putting a new guy on a project for a 3-year-old customer of ours we've been working with for years or 10 years, whatever. By the way, that asset should be done in TIA portal version 15.1, or this is why we're not going to just start off and migrate their code. You need to think through that. That can be a mouthful for some customers, so you have to be careful with that. And it's just inner knowing how to operate. All right. So with that being said, more importantly, it's something that I preach, and it's why you want to come to one of our Brew Logics events, or it's probably the first 2 hours of a training class that I would offer. It's 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 the resource side of what we do. The joke is I have a 20-year-old cheat sheet. It's 20 years of experience, and depending on the manufacturers, which cheat sheet it is, it's not only how to get tech support and what utilities to use, but it's also things like how to access libraries and what library would do what. So I will dive into the Siemens side of things. We have a standard template we use at Think PLC that's made of multiple libraries. That's could be Siemens generated, our generation, and or DMC. So if I had no spec, and I hear this from large companies, large machine builders, often material handling companies, as an example, they're like, we want a standard, we just don't know how to get there. Don't write the book. You don't have to write the book nowadays. But the problem is if you don't know where to get this stuff, obviously you don't know where to start creating that standardization. So I provide that in the documentation in the training courses in the BrewLogics. We always give that content out. And if you did my Step 7 Classic Rewind webinar last year, the big part of that, the first part of it was like making you more resourceful by finding this standardization. And so I'll give a shout out to DMC and what they did with TIA Portal starting back maybe version 14. So I'm going to ruin this, but openplclibrary.org. One of something about that you can Google it, or I'll Google it for you. Um, there's a standard that DMC out of Chicago, which is a fantastic systems integrator, they created, and it's now been refined and worked on to V18. Um, so we're using DMC's openly available, which is the reason it was developed, documentation and TIA portal, TIA portal libraries so that we can create some standardization. And we now have complete process plants on DMC libraries. So it's a joke with one of our lead guys, the lead engineers. He's like, DMC's got a block for that. DMC's got a block for that. So and then you can dive into the application specific standardization. So if we're talking motion control, there's standards around blocks, like the L-axis library that Siemens offers. Rockwell has some great utilities through the knowledge base for solving solutions, solving applications past what you'll get in just Studio. So I definitely recommend that, like actually solving applications, which to wrap this thing in a bow and I'll be quiet. um, the fact that we talk about generations and how our companies change. Let's talk about how it's okay for these major manufacturers to change. And I've got to be honest, where Rockwell stood the test of time, 80s and 90s, was they were coming up with ways, instruction sets to solve applications that we're running into 99% of the time. You can be a manufacturer and you can have amazing software. You can have the fastest processor. You can have the most memory. You can have the best hardware. But if you're not providing application standardization or application solving tools, you're not going to stay up with the times. You're not going to have the customer base. That's the change from 2023, from 2002 when I was starting my career.
Any other like thoughts on like standardizing like hardware in general?
Just that, and the conversation comes up often when production people buy machinery and they don't get engineering and maintenance involved. Normally, that's a maintenance group within an organization or manufacturing facility. They don't call them into the meetings, or they don't ask the right questions, and to get that in place. So yeah, you get every version, whatever was cheapest, and over the last year and a half, it's whatever the hell we could get, right?
Mhm.
So with that being said, that's a big deal. The it's obvious in the sense of spare parts. We have an OEM that builds desiccant air dryers. It's a very simple machine, complex in mechanically how it works, but simple in controls. So it uses an S7 1200. As you know, that's a high horsepower, low cost brick, right? So they did for a major automotive manufacturer. They obviously quoted a desk and air dryer, specialty dryer, and that company, which to my liking, was set the standard on what they're going to do. So it was a rewrite of code. We did an L83 control logics in the place of an S7 1200, and so we had a second meeting to say, "Are you sure? Are you sure this is a $12,000 CPU? Are
Yeah.
you
Double
sure?"
the cost
"Oh,
of the system.
yeah, we're replacing, sub $1,000 for sure." And "Are you sure?" And they're like, "Yes, this is the only processor we want to stock. We know it. Or I mean, it's our standard." And I was blown away that they would pay that for a project, but they found value on the front end to make sure that was the case. Especially like on the Siemens side of things. I mean, you know, don't have a 1511, 1512, couple 1513s, one 1515 out there. Just don't do it. Like just, and by the way, like fail safe in all these processors is not that much money. Go ahead
Mhm.
and buy the fail safe processor, like, just have it in, just keep the same stock. Like, if we're down there, you gotta look at, like, the livelihood and what this stuff means, and we're down there picking up pennies and dollar bills are blowing by our head.